everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, well, it looks like it's not just Spain and Portugal that are flooding right now. It's also Greece and Bulgaria and Turkey and China and Brazil. All experiencing these insane floods that cause scenes like this, like what you're seeing on the screen. I have a bunch of videos to show you, all on Twitter. We're going to go through those and go through what's happening right now. But I thought that it'd be good to understand the context, according to what President Dallin H. Oaks said in 2004. At the time, he was Elder Oaks. He was a member of the Quorum of the 12. Now he's first counselor in the first presidency, as we all know. And let me just read what he said. President Oaks, there's like two talks of his that have like really stood out to me just because of how unusual they were. And one of them is this one. There's this one because he actually lists out the signs of the second coming to look for, which to my knowledge, there hasn't been anybody else in General Conference that's given a list like this. Like a numbered list of things to look for. And then in this most recent General Conference, April 2023, he gave that talk where all he did was read quotes from the Savior in the scriptures, which was odd. But when you think about it, it's almost like Christ himself gave a talk in General Conference in his own words. I don't know. I mean, nobody knows if President Nelson is going to be the prophet of the second coming or if President Oaks is going to be the prophet of the second coming. We've talked about the symbolism of their careers, how President Nelson, he was a heart surgeon, and now he's working on the heart of the church. He's preparing a Zion people, and Zion is one in heart, one in mind, and pure of heart. But then after that, if he were to pass away, the next one would be President Oaks. And he's the judge. He was a Utah Supreme Court justice. And his career was in the legal field. And so I don't know. Maybe it's going to be President Oaks. We don't know. But let me read what he said in this pretty unique talk called Preparation for the Second Coming. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. The scriptures are rich in references to the second coming, an event eagerly awaited by the righteous and dreaded or denied by the wicked. Keep that in mind, not to judge other people, but just keep that in mind whenever you get discouraged by people that try and make light of the signs of the times, or they ignore the warnings that you're trying to give them, or they make it seem like the second coming is going to be so far in the future you don't have to worry about it. This could be why. It could be why. The faithful of all ages have pondered the sequence and meaning of many events prophesied to precede and follow this hinge point of history. Four matters are indisputable to Latter-day Saints. 1, the Savior will return to the earth in power and great glory to reign personally during the millennium of righteousness and peace. 2, at the time of his coming, there will be a destruction of the wicked and a resurrection of the righteous. 3, no one knows the time of his coming, but 4, the faithful are taught to study the signs of it and to be prepared for it. I wish to speak about the fourth of these great realities, the signs of the second coming, and what we should do to prepare for it. All right, so this is the first section of his talk. The Lord declared, "He that feareth me shall be looking forth for the great day of the Lord to come, even for those signs of the coming of the Son of Man. Signs that will be shown in the heavens above and in the earth beneath. The Savior taught this in the parable of the fig tree, whose tender branches give a sign of the coming of summer. So likewise, when the elect shall see the signs of his coming, they shall know that he is near, even at the doors. Biblical and modern prophecies give many signs of the second coming. These include, and then here's the list, and I haven't been able to find any general conference talk that does anything like this. So, 1, the fullness of the gospel restored and preached in all the world for a witness to all nations. 2, false Christs and false prophets. Notice he's using the plural, not a single antichrist, but many antichrists and many false prophets, deceiving many. Number 3, wars and rumors of wars with nation rising against nation. 4, earthquakes in diverse places. We just had a really big one earlier this year in Turkey that made that Mount of Olives split into two. I've covered that a few times on the channel. Excuse me. Number 5, famine and pestilence. Number 6, an overflowing scourge, a desolating sickness covering the land. Again, I tend to, if I were to guess, and it would be a guess, I would guess that that was the pandemic. Not just because of those that were killed by COVID, but the effects that it had on the entire world and the economy and society and so on and so forth. Number 7, iniquity abounding. Number 8, the whole earth in commotion. Number 9, men's hearts failing them. I just talked about that in the last video. And then that's the end of the list. He gives 9 things. Notice the things that are absent. And I don't think that he's saying that this is all, but these are the ones that we're mostly looking at. He doesn't include, everybody returning to Jackson County, Missouri, and building the literal city of New Jerusalem. Remember that we already know that there's a temple there. It's currently being used as a visitor center, but there's the Independence Visitor Center that was built to be part of the 24 Temple Complex. We have a stake in Independence, Missouri, and many members in that area. And I tend to think, based on my own studies, that that's probably all that you need in order to build a city. You already have the people there and a temple in waiting. And all the rest of it, roads, trees, swimming pools, whatever, that can come later. He doesn't talk about the 10 lost tribes coming from inside the earth or outer space, or any of that stuff. No Antichrist. Okay? And when I say Antichrist, I mean a one-person Antichrist. Okay, in another revelation, the Lord declares that some of these signs are his voice calling his people to repentance. Okay, now check this out and think about this as we go into these videos coming out of Greece and Turkey and other places. Hearken, O ye nations of the earth, and hear the words of that God who made you. How oft have I called upon you by the mouth of my servants, and by the ministering of angels, and by my own voice, and by the voice of thunderings, and by the voice of lightnings, and by the voice of tempests. And this is, in fact, what's been going on for the last couple days in Europe. And by the voice of earthquakes and great hailstorms, and by the voice of famines and pestilences of every kind, and would have saved you with an everlasting salvation, but ye would not. These signs of the second coming are all around us and seem to be increasing in frequency and intensity. Remember, the year that he's saying this is 2004. This is the year that I left on my mission. For example, the list of major earthquakes in the World Almanac and Book of Facts, 2004, shows twice as many earthquakes in the decades of the 1980s and 1990s as in the 2 preceding decades. It also shows further sharp increases in the first several years of this century. The list of notable floods And think about that as we're about to look at these videos, and tidal waves, and the list of hurricanes, typhoons, and blizzards worldwide show how similar increases in recent years, sorry, show similar increases in recent years. Increases by comparison with 50 years ago can be dismissed as changes in reporting criteria. But the accelerating pattern of natural disasters in the last few decades is ominous. Well, we are now almost 2 decades after he said this, and things have just gotten worse. So I think he was right. I think he was right. Again, let me just show you this one thing, maybe two. I wasn't planning on doing this, but let's go to my spreadsheet, go down to signs, wildfires. So all this red and black and dark gray, it represents either the largest wildfire of that location. So this year, it's the European Union as a whole is having, and it's still burning, by the way. It's going on right now as we speak. It in Greece, because it's in Greece, and Greece is part of the European Union, have both had their largest wildfires in their recorded history. Canada this year is having its worst wildfires of all time. So that's what all the red is. The black is the deadliest, and then gray, which I think I only have the one, is the most destructive. Okay, so largest, most destructive, deadliest. All this has taken place since 2004. In 2004, Alaska had its largest wildfire in state history, as well as worst wildfire season, taking all the wildfires in together. Okay, so he gives that talk in 2004, and from that time onward, all these wildfires, and not small ones. Russia is a big country. Canada is a big country, land-wise. The European Union covers a very large area. California is a big state. Alaska in 2004. Alaska is a big state. Okay. Let's look at earthquakes. So in 2004, after he just talked about tsunamis, like tidal waves, you had the 2004 tsunami, the Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami that affected primarily Indonesia. It happened later that year, and it was a devastating, devastating earthquake and tsunami. Let's go to my spreadsheet and let's zoom in. So in columns D and E, you have death tolls. So column D is the total death toll between all earthquakes for that year. In column E is the death toll for the single deadliest earthquake of that year. So you can see in 2004 that Indonesian earthquake and resulting tsunami killed a lot of people, almost 250,000 in just that one event. And then in 2010, there was the Haiti earthquake. That there's actually a lot of different numbers for this, but I'm going with one that seems pretty solid. 220,000. So those two things, as well as like these other, look at these other years. Look at the colors. Okay, the dark pink, dark pink, dark pink. Well, that's kind of lighter pink, but since 2004, since he gave that talk, and then as far as earthquakes go, between 2012 to 2022, things kind of kind of calmed down a little bit, except for this year. This is from that earthquake in Turkey. So yeah, things have gotten worse. They have definitely gotten worse. Was there anything else I wanted to look at? Let's see, wildfires, derechos, die-offs, capital cities. Well, I'm currently keeping this spreadsheet of all these capital cities that are being hit by all these different disasters and weather events and things like that. And it hasn't taken me very long to fill this up to the point that it's at now. Let me zoom out. Again, I remind you that except for the bottom two, everything from this like dark gray one right here, everything from there up has happened since March of this year. March. So within the last 6 months, all this has happened, and I guarantee that I don't have it all. These are disasters that have happened in capital cities. I'm not even counting major cities that are not capital cities. In fact, I found a new one. I'm about to show that to you a little bit later. Okay, yeah, so he noticed in 2004 that things had been increasing and a higher frequency of disasters, hurricanes, typhoons, blizzards, tidal waves, so on and so forth. But it's only gotten worse since that time. Um, okay, so with that in mind, let's take a look really quick at Zoom Earth. So in the last video, we talked about this what they call a cutoff low. It's basically a low pressure area. From what I understood, a low pressure area at a higher not elevation, well, okay, whatever, elevation, higher up in the atmosphere, higher whatever. And it basically broke off from the prevailing westerlies or the current, that it would normally go along with. It got detached from that, and that's called a cutoff low. And it basically parked itself over Spain and Portugal. And there was a whole bunch of flooding, especially in and around Madrid. So I was like, okay, well, do a video on that, covered it, okay. And then I was about to ready to do my next video just now. And it turns out that uh, if we go east and we go to Greece, Turkey, Bulgaria, we have this going on. They're calling this. I'm gonna have to read that over what we're about to read in the article. It's not. Well, I think it is actually a cyclone, or it's close to being a cyclone, or in other words, a hurricane that's hitting Greece, Turkey, Bulgaria, in this area. And it's causing a lot of problems simultaneously um, as this other event. Well, this other event in Spain, it's basically done by now. Let me bring it to present. So September 5th. So you can see that thing is basically come and gone. But over here, this is going on right now. And they're calling the storm Daniel. Okay, this is Daniel that's going on right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to X. So this is in Skiathos, Greece. The user Nahel Begurs says the sun sets on Skiathos, Greece. It has rained nonstop all day. Streets are flooded. Heartbreaking. I decided to look up where that's at. So let me zoom out. So you can see Greece right here. There's Athens, and Skiathos or whatever is like, it's on this small island right here north of Athens. Okay, back to X. Let's move on. Disaster news: massive floods due to heavy rains in the Agios Nikolaos of Crete, Greece. Let me see if I can pull that up. Whoa. Zoom out. All right, so it's down here. So it's just like this whole area. All as far north as this right here, if you can see my cursor, and then as far south as this down here, at the very least. I can't remember if this one shows a car being swept out to sea, but I do have actually a couple videos of that, so stay tuned. All right, this one's from Volcaholic, catastrophic flooding in Rio Grande do Sul. This is Rocco Salles in Brazil this afternoon. So Brazil is getting hit right now. Now, I haven't been able to find a whole lot. Whenever I see these videos, I always want to make sure that I can back it up, that this isn't from like a few years ago, or, and even then I can't necessarily verify it, but at least I can know that there is something going on in Brazil right now. So what I found was this article. Uh, this is from today. 4 dead after extratropical cyclone hits South Brazil. So let's go over here to Brazil. I don't know where to, let's go back a few hours. I don't know. Maybe it's this right here. I don't know. Or maybe it's down. No, that's not Brazil down there. Brazil cuts off like right here. I don't know, but according to this, there is a extra tropical cyclone that hit there, and that's pretty much the only story that I've seen. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this did take place, though. Let's see, Rocco Salles. Let's find out where that's at really quick. Brazil. Zoom out. All right, so it's like in the southern part of the country, relatively close to Uruguay. All right, so let's go back to X. So in this case, I can't tell for sure. I don't know if like those roofs that you see, if those are like taken off of homes, or if those are actually homes where the water is that high, where it goes all the way up to roof level. You know what? I think that's what it is. I think the water right here goes up to roof level, because I'm seeing multiple structures that look like that. So that is a lot of water. It's a lot of water. Okay, what's this one? Terrible floods due to heavy rains in Volos city of Greece. Of course, it's always either dumpsters or cars, or sometimes other things. But this is starting to become a very common sight. Let's see where Volos is. Come back over here. Zoom out. This is also north of Athens. In fact, it looks like it's a little bit further north than, yeah, it is. There's Skiathos right there. So it's even further north than Skiathos right here. All right, go back to X. Incredible waterspout forms along the coast of Evia, Greece. Yep, that is kind of scary looking. Let's move on. Okay, Chowdhury Parvez. Terrible floods due to heavy rains in the Volos of Greece. And a bunch of brown water. You can see a vehicle there, so you get some idea just how high that is. Disaster news: massive floods due to heavy rainfall in Fuzhou City in China. Fuzhou City in China. Now, this is interesting because if we go to my capital cities spreadsheet, and we go to the beginning of August, the first event that I have on here for August is actually Beijing, China. And it was other areas around Beijing. They had heaviest rainfall since records began, or in other words, 140 years. Almost a million people evacuated, 21 dead, 26 missing at the time that I updated this. And now, according to Disaster News, well, not according to them. I looked it up. Right here. Okay, storms from Typhoon Haikui drenched China's Fujian province. Beijing. Thousands of people were evacuated from their homes and vehicles. Thousands of people were evacuated from their homes and vehicles, were swept away in floods as storms from now weakened Typhoon Haikui made landfall in China's southeastern Fujian province early on Tuesday, after battering Taiwan in the past 2 days. About 114,000 people were moved from risky areas as the typhoon rolled in with a maximum wind speed of 20 meters or 66 feet per second. Several areas of Fujian recorded more than 300 millimeters or a foot of rain in just over 24 hours. In Fuzhou City, 2 firefighters were missing after a fire truck carrying 9 rescue workers was swept away by floodwaters during a mission, state media reported. Last month, okay, so this is talking about what happened in Beijing. Last month, northern and northeastern China saw heavy flooding caused by typhoons Doksuri and Kanun, which brought the capital Beijing its heaviest recorded rainfall in 140 years. All right, so we have this going on in China. I do want to look really quick. Okay, we'll just do Fujian province. That's fine. Yeah, it looks like it's pretty much, well, it brings us to right here. Oh yeah, there's Fuzhou. That's the city. That's what I was looking for. You can see it's basically right across here from Taiwan. So this is the area. Whereas last month, it was all the way up here in Beijing. All right, so this is what it looks like in China. Again, I have to wonder if maybe there's unconventional warfare going on, the manipulation of hurricanes, typhoons, and other weather phenomena to fight unconventional warfare. I find it weird that Europe, the United States, Russia, and China seem to be having all these things happen as there's all these political differences and stuff like that. But anyway, okay, here's Bulgaria. Terrible floods due to heavy rains in Sarajevo of Bulgaria. And if we go to Zoom Earth and go back up to the Mediterranean, you can see, here's Turkey right here, and then Bulgaria is right here. So it's like you have these 3 countries that are being battered by this storm, Daniel. All right, back to X. Kaya Sahir Metro in Istanbul. This is also becoming a very common scene where you see these subways or metros that are being flooded. We've seen it recently in Frankfurt. We saw it in the last video in Spain, and then here you go in Istanbul. And I swear there's been some other places too, but those are the 3 that come to mind. Okay, here's Fuzhou, that city in China. And just you don't want to be walking out in that. That is just insane. All right. floods in Belmonte of Cuenca province, Spain. So this is a different part of Spain. In fact, Cuenca was actually in my area. Let's see, Cuenca. I mean, in my mission. But at the time, there was a time when we had missionaries there, but when I was there, there weren't any missionaries in Cuenca. But it was on like the westernmost part of the mission boundaries. But you can see it's not really too close to Madrid. It's actually kind of like halfway between Madrid and Valencia. Valencia being the third largest city in Spain. It goes Madrid, and then Barcelona and Valencia. And Cuenca is right between number 1 and number 3. So you had that going on there. Current situation on Greek island of Skiathos. It must be terrifying. Yep. That is not good. This is from Thessaly, Greece. So this would be the I'm pretty sure that that's referring to that one place that we talked about recently being the place of the Thessalonians. Thessaloniki. I'm not sure. Or I don't know if that's like a larger region. Anyway, I'm not going to look it up right now, but I think that's what that's talking about. Either way, there's somewhere in Greece that looks like that. Nova Roma do Sul, Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil. There you see a vehicle floating upside down like a dead fish under a bridge. And undoubtedly, it'll make its way out to sea. That would be my guess anyway. Here's Brazil. Nova Bassano of Rio Grande do Sul. All right. Back to China, Fuzhou City. A massive waterfall going on right there. Back to Brazil. There's a structure collapsing and floating away. That reminds me of the tsunami that took place in Japan back in 2011. Okay, back to Brazil, or this is still Brazil, I mean. You can see more right there. Brazil. People watching is you have that massive river going through the city. Spain, a new video from Spain that we haven't seen before. This is in Toledo. This is in Istanbul, Turkey. Now, I don't have the cap. Remember, the capital of Turkey is Ankara, and I searched both Sofia, Bulgaria, and Ankara, Turkey, and it doesn't seem that there's any flooding taking place in those capital cities. So I don't have anything to put on the capital cities spreadsheet for that. And Athens isn't flooding either. Fuzhou, China. My gosh. Brazil. That looks like that bridge just collapsed, or at least that end of it did. Okay, here it is. Cars being washed away in Skiathos. And because there's a boat right there, I'm assuming that that's probably the ocean. I guess it could be a lake, but probably not. I'm guessing it's probably the ocean. Cars being swept into the ocean. People being swept away. It's bad. It's just really bad. So there's just a few more things I want to go over, and then we'll end the video. So CBS News, historic flooding event, quote unquote. in Greece dumps more than 2 feet of rain in just a few hours. That is a lot of rain. Greece is being hit with another round of extreme weather after weeks of experiencing drought, wildfires, and intense heat. Within the span of just hours, some areas of the country received more than 2 feet of rain, and at least one person was killed as the storm continued to move toward the Mediterranean Sea, where it could transform into what's known as a medicane, quote unquote. I don't know what that is. That like a mix between Mediterranean and hurricane? Um, in Zagora, there was quote unquote jaw-dropping rainfall of 21 inches from the storm named Daniel within just 10 hours on Tuesday. European synchrotron radiation facility researcher Nahel Belgers posted on social media. An additional 300 to 500 millimeters, locally up to 600 millimeters of rain, could fall by Thursday, he said. A historic flooding event is underway. So, yeah, this is not over yet. Later, the rain seen in Zagora is more than 55. Look at this, more than 55 times higher than the average rainfall for September across Greece, which has an average rainfall for the month of 16 millimeters, according to the UK Meteorological Office. A fallen tree is seen in a flooded river during a storm in the city of Volos, Greece, today, September 5th, the day that I'm recording this. Videos posted by Greece's Meteorological Office show fast flooding across several cities on Tuesday. In Skiathos, the office said that the situation was, quote unquote, getting worse throughout the afternoon. Other images show cars halfway submerged under floodwaters. And in Volos, the office said that some areas lost electricity, and the Athens news agency reported that one man was killed when flooding caused a wall to fall on him as he was trying to get to his sheep. Another man in the city is missing after being swept away by the waters, the agency said. Skipping down, quote, Daniel is developing into one of the most powerful storms that our country has experienced, with the daily rainfall in central Greece far exceeding previous records, at least since 2006. The country's I can't stand this word. Meteorological office wrote on Tuesday, saying that along with the man's death, the storm also caused significant infrastructure problems. The last daily rainfall record of 2.1 feet during the last daily rainfall record of 2.1 feet during Mediterranean cyclone Janice in September 2020. And then later on it says, and it may only be getting worse for the region in the coming days. Weather forecasting site Severe Weather Europe says that Daniel could lead to the development of a medicane, a tropical-like cyclone in the Mediterranean. Weather models show such a system could form over the Ionian Sea this week, and the forecaster said, as an ongoing marine heat wave fuels extreme weather. Let's go back to Zoom Earth. It doesn't have like the kind of like the forecast things that they do over here in the Atlantic, where you can kind of see what they expect these hurricanes to turn into, and how much they're supposed to strengthen. They don't have anything like that for Daniel, but I guess we'll just wait and see what happens. All right, going back. The flooding comes as Greece has been battling the European Union's largest wildfire ever recorded. Just last week, Greece's fire service said the fire was still out of control. in a nature reserve as the country continues to recover from the dozens of fires that broke out over the summer. So yeah, it's been really, really extreme in Greece this year. Wildfires, crazy flooding, and it seems like it's not over yet. And then, like I said earlier in the video, here's ABC News. At least 7 people die as severe rainstorms trigger flooding in Greece, Turkey, and Bulgaria. 2 holidaymakers swept away by a torrent that raged through a campsite in northwestern Turkey. It's so crazy. People being swept away by this flooding. I'm going to skip that, I think. And then this is Bulgaria, the Sofia Globe. Flooding on Bulgaria's coast. Rainfall like no one has seen. Heavy rains have caused what local media called unprecedented flooding in Bulgaria's southern Black Sea cities and resorts. With Sarajevo, where a state of emergency was declared on September 5th, the hardest hit. Lapchev told Bulgarian national radio, quote, "The 2 reservoirs in Sarajevo municipality are overflowing. We will inform the people in Lozanets to be extremely vigilant and to withdraw to the higher parts. The amount of rainfall that has fallen is like no one has seen," Lapchev said. Continuing, we have broken bridges and a whole village, Kosti, which is currently underwater. We have started evacuating people. There are also cars hit by the tidal wave, which came very quickly. The water keeps coming, he said. And continuing, the rain does not stop. What we are we are witnessing pictures that no one has ever imagined. They are also looking for the driver of a car who is supposed to have fallen into one of the ravines. Let me just see really quick. Let me see really quick if there's anything about Kosti, like being completely destroyed. No, not videos, news. No, not right now, but I don't know. So to wrap this up, I definitely don't think that this is normal for flooding like this to happen so frequently. It's becoming more frequent. I almost feel like anytime I hop on X, I come across scenes like these. And I don't recall before, say, just a few years ago, seeing such wild flooding in Europe, in European cities. I'm sure that it's happened. We did see that one picture of Alicante, Spain, in the last video that I did about Madrid. And I can't remember, I think it was 1997, where there was flooding. But I just remember the first time that I saw it, it may have been like 2021 when I started paying attention. I was just kind of like blown away. Seeing these these like flash floods that I'm used to seeing in other places, like third world countries, but happening in Europe. So, all I can say is that I think what's happening is just what President Oakes said here. In another revelation, the Lord declares that some of these signs are his voice calling his people to repentance. And I'm sure it is for some people. We're not going to know until after this life, once we're all able to mingle together, have the veil lifted, and talk about what happened on Earth, and hear the stories, you know. Oh, yeah, I was in Greece, in 2023. I was in Volos, and it was at that moment when my car was swept away into the ocean that I realized I needed to change my life. I needed to um, go back to the faith of my fathers, and and then later, I survived into the millennium, and I had really changed things. And when I saw Christ and he declared that this was his church, I knew that that's what I needed to do. You know, I'm sure that we'll see a lot of stories that goes something like that. Unfortunately, not all. Even with this, there's still going to be people that don't realize or refuse to recognize that it's the Lord's voice. You know, some will double down uh, on the way that they're living, and their secularism or whatever it is that they're dealing with in their life, and just nothing's going to change them. And then the end's going to come. So that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share, and I'll talk to you guys later.